So, Karan, you have a long association with Ryan now. How much
Mhm.
your bond with him has evolved over the period of time?
It has evolved, in many ways because when especially we did the first movie, Ryan's career was in a very different place. He wasn't getting as many of the bigger movie offers and stuff, which happens in every career. You go through different lulls, and he was putting all his entire effort into the first movie to make it really special and it was a movie that no one really, the studio didn't really believe in. It was like they didn't give us the full budget, all this stuff. So I think because we had everyone who worked on that first one, I think he really appreciates, and we all kind of bonded because we were making this thing quietly in one corner of Hollywood, which no one was looking at, and then it became this much bigger thing that no one was expecting, and so I think all of us who worked on the first one have such a bond, and specifically with him because I think he was at that point in his career being like, I'm going to put 1,000% into this movie, like help write it, edit, marketing, everything. It's the first time he really did that. And now obviously we're so used to him doing all this marketing, all this other stuff, but that was the first time. And so I think anyone who worked really hard on it and was there, I think he appreciates. So I feel very bonded to him, and I hope he feels the same way.
So, did you notice any change in him this time as an artist and as a person?
Yeah, well, the biggest change was that this time he was working with Shawn, the director, and this is their third movie together in back to back, because Shawn has made three movies now with Ryan back to back. And that was the biggest thing, was that they are so close and so bonded. And it made it really fun because basically before Ryan can even think of something to say, Sean's like, I know exactly what you're saying. I'll put the camera here. Like there was just this like telekinetic language between them that was really fun and special. And it's great when Ryan loves to collaborate. So it's great when he's found such an amazing collaborator. They both work really well together. They're constantly coming up with ideas. So that was definitely like the thing that felt a little bit different, where it felt like, wow, there's almost like two Ryans there now, Sean and Ryan like working together.
I heard a very interesting fact. Like Ryan wants to make a road trip movie with you, your
Yes.
character Bhupin. What do you have to say
Listen,
about
I
that?
would love. He had talked a little bit about that. It took many years to get to this version that is now Deadpool and Wolverine as a new movie because obviously the studio was sold, and then Ryan had to pitch to the Kevin Feige and MCU like what would be Deadpool's role in this bigger world. And I think they tried many different versions, and then that was maybe one of the ideas that he had that he wanted to do. And I mean, that sounds like a dream to me to get to act with him in that capacity. But yeah, now I think this is the version that they ended up coming up with, which was Hugh and Ryan together. But yeah, if he ever wants to make that movie, that sounds like a dream to me.
Okay, Karan, since you're from India, you're from Indian origin, do you have any idea about Indian cinema? Do you watch them?
Yeah, yeah, I still watch, not as much. I only grew up watching all YRF and Dharma movies.
Oh,
And
great.
then I left in 2007 to come here. So I not as many of the movies come here, so I haven't watched as many. But the last one I watched in the theater was Rocky Rani. I watched it
Oh,
twice in the theater. And then actually I watched Teri Baaton Mein Aisa Ulja Ji. I watched that. I went to go see that too a few months ago. But I'll watch some of the stuff on Netflix and Amazon now, that the TV shows, but not as much the movies, which I miss watching.
okay. You gave voice to Pavitra Prabhakar, the
Mhm.
Indian Spider-Man. How was that experience? And I want to know if you get a chance to feature in a Indian movie, would you be
Mhm.
interested?
Yes, definitely. I'll answer that first. Yeah, I would love to be in an Indian movie. I think like because that's mostly what I grew up watching, and now I think there's such cool stuff that's being made. It used to be that you have to do a certain thing, which is be able to dance and be in these big movies. But now there's so many smaller, interesting movies,
Right.
and I love the big movies. I mean, Rocky Rani to me was like it made me so happy because it reminded me of like K3G times in many ways of like those movies that I grew up with, and those are amazing too, I think. But yeah, I would love to. And specifically, I want to work with a lot of Bollywood actors like Alia and Ranbir and everyone, Kriti, all these people, because I think they're such good actors and it would be so cool to get to work with them. And so, yes, 100%. And then, yes, Pavitra Prabhakar, that was an incredible experience, such an incredible experience. experience. I auditioned for that too many maybe 2 3 years ago, and I didn't know it was for a Spider-Man character, so they basically just gave scenes from the first Spider-Man animated movie, and then once I got the part, they were like, "Oh, you're gonna play Spider-Man India," and I was like, "What is Spider-Man India?" And I didn't know, and then I Googled, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is like a character that exists," and I was like, "Wow!" And they were like, "But we're doing our own version," and blah blah blah, and then it was such a fun experience. And then they actually, Chris and Phil, who wrote the movie, after I was cast, we did a few recordings, and then they were like, we want you to make this character more Indian, more you. So they were like, we're going to rewrite these lines with you. So we had a little meeting at Sony, and Hassan Minhaj came to it and a few other people. And basically, Phil and Chris said, if you are Indian audience member and you walk into the movie theater and this character comes, what do you want to see? And honestly, the real reason any of that was happening was because many Indian animators animate those movies, and many Indian VFX artists work on Deadpool and all these things, because you'll see the credits and it's all these Indian names. So
Indians,
the
right?
Vancouver-based Indian animators saw, very many versions of the Spider-Man movie, and they felt they wanted the Indian character to be more Indian and represent the culture more than what was originally there. Originally, he was just sort of this very cool kind of guy, but it wasn't specific to Indian culture. So the chai tea, like all that stuff changed afterwards. And basically, we were like, yeah, let's make him from like Mumbai, this place. Like, what is his life like, and all this stuff. So they were so open to us changing and doing all that. And I'm so glad, because the character feels so specific. And I cannot tell you how many American people do not know that
Yeah.
chai means tea, and really are now like so educated on so many of those things. But also in many ways, the dream with that role was that a non-Indian person, a kid who's not Indian, would watch that movie and be like, the Indian Spider-Man is my favorite. And that has happened. Many kids love that character's personality so much, and it makes me really proud, because I go like, yeah, that's the Indian one. Like, you like the Indian one. And so it's really cool.
Also, Karan, there has been always a chat about expanding MCU with the actors of across the world. Who do you think, which Indian actor will be perfect for a Marvel superhero?
Oh my God. I'm gonna sound like I'm only talking about Rocky Rani, but I promise I watch other movies too. But Alia is my favorite current working Bollywood
Oh,
actor, and I know she's been doing stuff in Hollywood too. I think she would be amazing in any capacity, and I think Ranveer specifically as a villain would be really
oh,
cool. I think
love.
like he would be really good. But yeah, I think, I mean, we any of them would be amazing. But yeah, those are
Alia
the
is
two.
playing a superhero in a Hindi film. So, lastly, because your fans felt this time your character, your screen presence was lesser than the previous one. What do you
Yeah.
have to say about that?
It's interesting thing, because as an actor, we have no control or say with any of that. We just go with where the direction goes. So obviously there's like a little bit of sadness when you hear like you're not going to be as much part of it, but then you see the movie and everything, and you kind of go like, oh, this is its own thing. Like it's like Ryan and Hugh going on their adventure, doing their thing. So you just I felt ultimately like a mixture of things. Initially I was like, oh, I'd love to have obviously been in it more, but at the same time, once I saw the movie, I really felt honestly just grateful to be in that world, because I think the movie is so epic and its own thing. And I really felt like a big part of the movie is him leaving his world and going on this journey. And it doesn't really work if all of us come along. And so I had that perspective, and I really, honestly, watching this movie, it sounds so weird, and I've been saying it today, but it reminded me a lot of when I watched Barbie, because Barbie to me was this like huge adventure, so entertaining, like big scope, but with a huge cast. And many of that cast, the many other Barbies and stuff, they didn't have like huge arcs or anything, but they were just a part of this like world. And that's kind of how I felt with this, where I was like, this movie is so big and epic and has so many surprises and so much happening, that to be a part of it in that way, I feel really excited. And I just think people are gonna have such a good time watching it. And by the way, if ever they ask me to come back and want me to do more, I'll happily do more and happily be a bigger part of anything. But I think so much of your job as an actor is just to be of service to what is wanted. And that's what I felt. I felt on Monday at the premiere, like just so lucky that I got to be in this world, and after all those years of making that smaller movie to now at this big movie that has so many other MCU characters and lore and everything, it was so cool to be like a little part of that. And yeah.
All the best. Lovely talking to you. And I'm imagining Karan Johar offering you Karan a
Listen,
movie.
listen, Karan, if you're listening, I saw your movie 3 times in theaters in America. It's not easy. I
Yay.
drove out to see it.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice day, evening, whatever.